And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Economics Monday program. I'm Nick Pellavita. I'm going to be your host, and today we have Dr. Dan Worthington has joined us from Salt Lake City, Utah. And later on today, we're going to actually have the Honorable David M. Walker is going to be joining us also as well later on today in this program. He just texted me. In the meantime, I see arguments that are going crazy or on the internet right now. Relating to some of the stuff that's going on later on today on this program. So, but we have some special guests. Let's bring them on. First of all, this person hails from Australia. He is a retired multi-billion-dollar hedge fund manager. Let's bring in Shaquille Latmer, the retired,
unemployed farm that I am now.
Yeah, right. He's going to post his resume on the internet very shortly. If anybody's looking for somebody who used to manage billions of dollars, you can talk to Shaquille. And this person is also a non-retired head of Chess Stars and also Modern Investing with Sasha. Let's bring in the very famous Sasha Star from Canada, Dosadanya. He's also very familiar with Russian politics and Russian soccer, which we had a great discussion on earlier today. For those who are joining us from the World Edition, apparently there were some issues there. England lost and everybody cries. I could care less, but that's me. Whether England wins or loses.
I could care less too. We're talking about England losing. We're talking about
USA baby.
Systemic racism and sexism, and all the other isms.
It sells. The ratings go up. I mean, the thing is, the minute you mention like after this show, we're having we're going to Media Monday, and the topic is Trump versus social media because Trump filed a suit against Facebook. Already the arguments are going like crazy. It sells.
To our viewers, I'm sure, Dan, that you can attest to this. If Nick wants to make no comment, I can certainly say to the viewers that some of the off-air debate that has filled my inbox the last couple of days has been very interesting. So I'm actually looking forward to the show in an hour.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh, you're apparently so. Adam must have copied all the stuff over to you, Adam and David.
It's got to everybody. Yeah,
right. I haven't had time to read it. I just posted.
Like everybody who's ever been on our shows ever in the history of the internet has seen this ongoing.
Right now, it's an ongoing battle, and I thought, hey, save it for the TV show, guys. I mean, don't waste your hard-earned arguments on a backroom argument.
These are important issues.
They're going to be so fired up when they get there. And I haven't seen David K. Johnson for a while. I haven't seen Adam for a while.
Really? Okay. Also, usual to be on the show is Bill Danko. Now, over here in the United States, I have to inform our non-U.S. visitors, viewers, that he wrote a book called The Millionaire Next Door, and he sold 4 million copies.
I have
that book. Hard to do.
Yeah,
you may have his new book called Richer Than a Millionaire.
Oh, I've got both his.
Really?
I've got that one.
Oh, the next Millionaire Next Door, right?
Yeah. I've got the other one. I know I bought it. So last time I was on everything.
Yeah, and I was a fan of his back in the '80s when I was working with estate planning individuals. I was doing estate planning. I noticed all the rich people were cheap. I couldn't figure out why. And then after a while, I read his book. Well, that's how they became rich. They were cheap. I mean, they clipped coupons when they went out to dinner. They looked for all the best deals. They're always looking for deals. I mean, it was kind of amazing. So I found that interesting. Well, so on Economics Monday, for those viewers who are around the world, we know that we believe, but do not have direct knowledge, that Shaquille Latmer is in Australia. Since I've never met him physically, he may be in Australia, he may be in Liechtenstein, he may be in Switzerland, he may be in Melbourne, he may be in Perth. I have no clue.
I'm never going to be in Melbourne.
You're not in Melbourne?
No, never. I'm never going to be in Melbourne.
You've never been to Melbourne? Sydney, then.
I've been there, but I'm never going to be like, oh, Shaquille's in Melbourne. Like, no. That's like the California of Australia without the good weather.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. See, I didn't know that. Down under. And Sasha is actually in Toronto, Canada. With information and belief, that's what lawyers would say. On information and belief, Sasha is in Toronto, Canada, although he could be beaming in from Ukraine, as far as I know, or Odessa or whatever. there's no way we would be able to verify that. But verification number one that we're looking at in Economics Monday is, of course, we're looking at David Walker will be here. He emailed me. He'll be here on 30. His great book, America 2040 Still a Superpower. And now we come to the issue of the day. The United States pulling out of Afghanistan. Would a superpower pull out of a country that we've already conquered? Professor Worthington, what are your thoughts about the pullout of Afghanistan? Is this how America exercised their superpower role, by leaving a country we just conquered?
Well, I think we worked 20 years or more to stabilize the political environment in the country, and to stay the unrest and the violence there, to defeat the Taliban, and left with their tails behind their legs. Sorry, Sasha, it's just descriptive, but they lost a lot of lives, wasted a lot of money, and they couldn't finish the job. So I think Trump had planned to pull out. I think it's probably a good idea. I mean, it's about time for the U.S. to give up the poppy seed business.
Sasa, what are your thoughts about the United States pulling out of Afghanistan after we actually conquered the country? We spent $1 trillion in there, and then all of a sudden we leave. What's the story here?
Well, it's very disappointing, strange, and by almost horrible story, because it's unclear what are the objectives of U.S. in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, it's the most horrible country in the world by far. It's people who live there. They're tribes of very primitive and hostile creatures which are fighting each other. They're fighting all invaders, whether it's Russians or Americans or whoever they are. And you must be insane to invade such a country. What are there? Are there beaches? Are there golf clubs? What are you going to do there? Even if you will go, who can actually defeat them? Russians, before they started process of perestroika and all that stuff in 1985 and Gorbachev came to power, under old power structures, if Russians would really feel that they cannot win the war, they would probably go as far as using nuclear bombs, but just to defeat and become victorious there. If that was a issue of national pride and prestige or so on, they could do that. Now, of course, once Gorbachev came to power, it was no longer issue, and slowly they started withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Okay, Shaquille, I know that you guys never come to war with America. The Australians never are on our side, and we treat them that way, as you notice, as I don't even know if you've got to second-class citizenship here in the U.S. yet. Maybe you're in third or fourth. But anyway.
I come from a Western country, so you're not going to want me. You only want uneducated people from poor countries, preferably with criminal records.
That's true. You're right. Okay, so what are your thoughts about the United States after we conquered Afghanistan? We spent $1 trillion, and now all of a sudden we're packing up our bags and leaving. What gives here? Is that America a superpower, America a wimpy power?
I don't think it's either. I think that is a highly partisan decision that's been made because the people in charge think that makes the most amount of sense to their base. Politicians today do not care about whether tax rates are good or bad for the people, or whether the healthcare system is good or bad for the people. Why does anybody think that the national defense of America is being done for the good of actual Americans? Nobody cares about that. The only reason why they're pulling out now is because they think it makes political sense to pull out right now. And when the Republicans come back in, they'll find a reason to go back for the reason that Dan just intimated with money. That's what all this comes down to. It's all about power and money. The fact of the matter is that pulling out of Afghanistan weakens that area. They know that. They are well aware of that. Afghanistan's not all of a sudden going to become a peaceful place after the United States pulls out. So what's going to happen over there? Are we going to see derivative issues such as a flare-up in Syria? And if anybody wants to be horrified, they should maybe see. I think the BBC still publish it. The ISIS document that explains how captured slaves should be treated. These were children, by the way. Remember that when you're reading it. Okay, the horrors that occur in those regions is indescribable, and for us to pull out without giving them any transition is a disgrace. I don't think we should have gone there in the first place, but having made that mistake to just pull out, unilaterally like that, I think is an awful mistake, and it's one that I think America will pay for.
Well, we already paid $1 trillion.
No, you spent $1 trillion.
We spent $1 trillion. Okay. What about reparations? Why don't we do like all the other conquering countries do, like France did to Haiti? Why don't we tax the Afghani citizens so we get our $1 trillion back? Sasha, what's wrong with that? In other words, we stay there, we tax them, and we start getting our money back rather than us just being a one-way street. What are your thoughts on that, Sasha?
One way of doing that is to figure out a third country which will become a guarantor of this collection efforts. I think U.S. will, if not that, U.S. will spend probably more money and force this collection activities than it will ever get out of it. So it means spend even more money. And right now, it's like a no-win situation. There's no way out. Okay, you leave Afghanistan, obviously it will become... now, by the way, Taliban leaders are now in Moscow, and they're negotiating with Moscow that they will obey and they will not enter this Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan and all these Central Asian republics. And Moscow is very pleased with these plans. So now they're totally on a Taliban side, so is China, or so on. So U.S. is in no win situation there, because even if you want to keep limited troops there in Afghanistan, you have to reinforce them, you have to protect them, because there will be always hostilities and mines and battles and so on. Why do America needs that? Yeah, there will be a horrible thing. There is this Taliban will get power. They will start killing people who are not part of this organization or so on. But at least keep Americans way out of it, please.
Mm-hmm.
If the United States does not have the balls, and that's what I'm going to call it, balls, to tell NATO countries that they need to contribute more to their own protection, rather than having the United States pay for it all, not just with money, but with the lives of the sons and daughters of America. If the United States thinks that it's a great travesty that Donald Trump suggested that NATO countries contribute and pay their fair share, heaven help the United States trying to extract reparations from Afghanistan.
There is one more thing. Don't forget that the 40% of population of Afghanistan are Pashtuns, which is the largest tribe, so 40% approximately or so on. So if there will be a truly democratic election of any kind or so on, so the Taliban will be in power anyway. So you are essentially, U.S. is fighting inevitable, because you cannot, in a lawful way, stop Taliban from coming to power. So, okay, you can do it probably for another year or two, or maybe even 5 years, but it's inevitable. It will happen anyway. And what are you going to put? You want to transfer people from Los Angeles or New York to bring a few million Americans to live in Afghanistan? So there will be
Sasha, all they have to do is put Dominion voting systems in place, and it will be fine.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Shaquille, you sounded like Trump when you talked about having balls to stand up to him. He did. That's what his.
That was my point. That was my point.
You pay your own way.
That was my point. Everyone crucified him for that. So if Trump's going to get crucified for asking NATO countries to contribute, like how could Nick's suggestion that America ask Afghanistan to pay for the $1 trillion that's been spent on them? How would that work?
No, I agree 100%. I'm on your side. The thing is, Trump was in favor of getting out of Afghanistan too. There is actually no U.S. strategic reason for them to stay. After bin Laden was killed, allegedly killed, there was no strategic reason for them to stay in Afghanistan. Really, I mean, it's like you said, it's one of the armpits of the world, and there's no reason strategically to stay other than the drug business.
I think it was a mistake to go in there in the first place. But look, they've been there for decades in various iterations. I think it's a worse mistake to just pull out. Now, look, as far as the financial cost of that to American taxpayers, yeah, it makes sense to come out. But I think that having made the mistake in the first place, I think that it's a moral obligation, not just the United States, by the way, but its allies such as Australia and the UK. I think it's a moral obligation that we have to try to make sure that when we leave, we're leaving the country with a fighting chance to have peace and prosperity.
And that sounds great. With that, we're just going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sveta Banerjee, the founder of Chamomile. Welcome to the #1 impact community platform of entrepreneurs, impact investors, experts, and people who are driven by achieving sustainable development goals and, of course, positive social and environmental impact in our world. Among our members, we have already world leaders such as Prince Michael of Liechtenstein, former Minister of Netherlands, head of European Investment Bank, and many others. What can you do on the platform? Of course, you can fundraise if you have project or a company. You can find various kind of resources, including advisory board members and team members. You can, of course, invest with impact and learn about impact investing. So look, the world is changing, and it's not anymore a moral choice, but it is a smart choice to join impact investing community. I'm looking forward to see you at Chamomile.
And we're really back, and we'll move to another topic on the economic front, is the assassination of the president of Haiti. Okay, what impact is that going to have on the United States? Sasha, since you come from Russia, you're kind of used to this type of stuff. What is the impact of the assassination of the Haiti president have on the United States?
I think it has a great impact on his wife and family. Impact on the United States, you need a very, very powerful microscope to really see it. I don't.
Okay. Shaquille, the assassination of the president of Haiti, that happened in our backyards. Of course, in Australia, you guys never have things like that because kangaroos every now and then will beat up prime ministers over there. But other than that, you have nothing exciting over in Australia that I know of. But what are your thoughts of the Haiti president being assassinated in the backyard of the United States of America, the world's largest economy, to one of the world's poorest economies?
So I'll be very careful what I say here. I think it's always a tragedy when when a human life is taken. I hope that there is a peaceful outcome over there, but past that, I really can't say anything. I'm too politically involved with the governments of the Dominican Republic and Haiti and the United States to make any further comment.
Oh, I see. Okay, I understand. I thought you were a retired hedge fund manager, but that's okay.
I am still the president of the Pacific Rim Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah.
We're still heavily involved in building hospitals and other things. So
okay, right.
For the sake of politics, I'll stay out of this particular.
Okay, but just to let you know, the Pacific Rim does not include Haiti for our listeners overseas. Haiti is in the U.S.
I'm also attaché of the American International. I'm the president of the International Great Alliance and a whole heap of charities.
Two-way politically connected. Okay, I need to find somebody who's more disconnected. A person who's on the South Dakota Trust Company, $100 billion company. Oh, Dr. Dan Worthington. That's him. What are your thoughts about Haiti in terms of the
I think
That's
it's
fantastic.
I think it's a tragedy. Obviously, I agree with Shaquille and the impact on the family, um, the political instability that it might create in Haiti. I don't know what the agenda was behind the assassins and why they chose to take him out the way they did. Hopefully, the Haitian people will rally and elect someone else that has the moral fiber to be able to lead the country and create stability. I, like Sasha, really, I pray for the people of Haiti. Uh, my When my wife died 20 years ago, I sponsored the building of a school sanctuary in the Dominican Republic through the Adventist program they have. So my heart bleeds for those people, hurts for those people, and the severe poverty and the other issues they've had to go through because of the way that country's been managed in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or sort of mismanaged, it looks like, over a long period of time. Also in the international news, we have our two friends who are making trips to outer space. One is Richard Branson, who successfully came up and is going down. Another one who's going to go up, I believe, on July 22nd, a gentleman by the name of Jeff Bezos. And then our third, our favorite, Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla, who is not going up yet because he's looking to figure a way how to do it with his batteries and his electric engines to get up there. So, Sasha, what are your thoughts about these runaway billionaires that have more money than sense, rather than spending the money
It's
on
only
bullshit?
$250,000,000.
Wait, I'm talking to Sasha. Where do you come from?
Oh, did you say, oh, they've got more money than sense? It's 250 grand.
I'm trying to be biased here. Can't you let me be a little bit biased and throw in a leftist agenda while we're talking, please? Okay. I mean, haven't you seen the media and other media, Shaquille? All the media throws in their bias. Okay.
What's your question, is Sasha? Should they go and put a BLM flag in the moon?
Yeah, right.
The moon's white.
Okay, so I was going to ask Sasha a leftist bias and put in my agenda on the way out the door. Why should these very low taxed, nearly no taxed billionaires who have multi-billion-dollar contracts with the U.S. government and pay little tax to the United States are being allowed to spend all their money taking trips to outer space? And that's the big deal for them and their companies, Mr. Sasha.
I think that after Americans landed on the moon more than 50 years ago or so, well more than 50 years ago, I don't see any technological or scientific breakthrough in this so-called space missions initiated by Branson and Bezos, and that's basically they're creating the entertainment for themselves and reach well-to-do people. Well, I'm not even sure that all of them will elect to travel to so-called space, but maybe they will, just to show on Instagram the picture. Okay, here is I'm in space. Okay, here is I'm in my swimming pool. Here is I'm in my Rolls Royce or so. Basically,
here's my Chanel outfit.
If to use the resources, I think what would be vital, Shaquille, especially for you, if there would be the high-speed transatlantic and trans-Indian ocean flights, like Concorde used to do, when you could fly from United States to England, to London for 3 hours or so, and from Australia you can fly into England in a matter of probably 7 hours, and that would be a breakthrough. That would be something useful and applicable to business demands or even wealthy leisure travelers, and that would be appreciated. And there is a technology to do that. But for some reason, Bezos and all these people, they're not too enthusiastic about that project because they say, okay, what are we going to do? The Concorde did it 35 to 40 years ago. Why do we need to spend our money just to repeat what's already been done before us?
Okay, I'll ask Shaquille. The same question. Shaquille, why should these pampered, multi-billion-dollar, non-tax-paying, blood-sucking people of the American economy, taking hundreds of millions of dollars, literally, out of taxpayers' hides, be allowed to fetter away this hard-earned money into this worthless pursuit so they can show everybody they're going to outer space? And we're talking about Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Jeff. I'm in the cloud, Bezos, but I have 160 billion. But my employees are lucky to get $15 an hour.
Well, firstly, when it comes to fritting away your money on worthless pursuits, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos would well be able to attest how worthless the pursuits were of having a nice woman by their side. And any man who thinks that they're romantic and that marriages are a good thing should wonder to themselves why it is the two richest people on earth weren't able to keep their wives happy. But I think the real question that you want to be asking yourself is not why should they be fritting away going up to space, but why should they be allowed back? Do we want Jeff Bezos back here? I mean, they're probably going up. They're probably going up anyway to get away with the political nonsense that they've started down here on Earth. I think what we should do is have a hard border around the planet. Anything past the atmosphere, you're going to have to apply to get back in. And until you do, I vote that we have a remain on Mars policy.
That sounds great. And with that, I'm going to introduce our special guest for today, the former Comptroller General of the United States of America, the author of America 2040, Still a Superpower. Let's welcome to the show the Honorable David M. Walker. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks, but I'll tell you, I'm going to have to talk to my brothers. I just texted my brothers and I asked them if they wanted to be the first three brothers to go in space together on Virgin Galactic, because I know one of the board members for Virgin Galactic actually was a reference for her, but but it sounds like you don't want us to be able to come back. So I'll have to
Dave,
a one-way trip.
Dave, I would let you back in. I'm not sure about your brothers. I don't know that. I'd let you back in. I wouldn't have a remain in the Mars policy for you. But I would like you to address the point that I made there about keeping women happy. If Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates couldn't keep their wives happy, what hope do any of us have? And really, if you think of the United States as a beautiful woman that nags you a bit, if the people in charge of the United States can't keep the country happy with $200 trillion in debt, what hope does any other country have?
Well, first, fortunately, I don't have the problem that Gates and Bezos have because I'm not a billionaire. Secondly, it shows you that money is not everything.
Yes, it is.
And thirdly, my understanding, at least in the case of Gates, is that he is allegedly a philanderer. So, then make it how much money you have. If you
and Bezos wasn't.
I didn't say he wasn't, but it's all over the news that Gates was. So, I don't know. But, look, I just celebrated my 50th wedding anniversary last month.
Wow.
And like anything, you have to be flexible. You have to compromise. You have to not sweat the small stuff. You got to have trust. You have to respect each other. In addition, love's not enough. It's more than that.
Dave, what you're describing is a person who actually has respect for the marriage vows that they took. And we know people like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, being the big socialists that they apparently are, have no respect for traditional values and no care at all for these types of things. So why would we expect them to treat their marriage vows seriously? Just like the Hollywood elites that go through 10 divorces.
Yeah.
Or marrying years younger than them.
Yeah, the thing is,
maybe I should leave. We would change the vote. I'm going to leave, and I will stay on Mars by myself.
Maybe we should get you a one-way ticket. Up to outer space.
If we set up a GoFundMe, I think the audience will.
Yeah, a GoFundMe to moon. to the moon, Shaquille. But I mean, that would be really good. Yeah, 50. That's says a lot about you, David, that you're actually able to hang in there. I've been married for 37 years, so I'm not even close. But I went to the I went to this room called the Copper Room at Lake Harrison. It's near Vancouver, British Columbia, called Harrison Hot Springs. If you ever have a chance there and you're in Vancouver, you take a trip out to Harrison Hot Springs. Beautiful hot springs. They have a place for the Copper Room where everybody celebrates their anniversary. And I forgot I was celebrating like my 26th at that time or something like that. There were people that were standing up. I've been married 50 years. I've been married 75 years. I mean, it was absolutely amazing and humbling experience.
So was Jimmy and Rosalind Carter there? Were they there? They just celebrated their 75th, which
75th. You're right. Now, yeah. Well, that would be a perfect place for them because that is called the Copper Room at Harrison Hot Springs. For those people, well, you're Canadian, Sasha. So the thing is, it's in Canada. Yeah, it's right outside of Vancouver. I've been there quite a few times. It's a great place to go to if you're in British Columbia, and if you're trying to impress people how long you've been married, it's a humbling experience because I don't know where to get.
It's going to happen to me next year, by the way.
What's going to happen to you next year?
50th
anniversary.
That's great.
Wow. Okay, Sasha's right on your tail there, David.
Oh yeah.
You know,
gorgeous female viewers, I am single. By the way, I'm single.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get you hitched up with it. We're gonna get you hitched up with a good American wife, bring you to America and tax the bejeebers out of you. But that's another story.
Let me just mention one last thing, and we can move on. And Sasha, I assume that you can answer this the same way. I have 50 years with the same woman. There are many people who have been married 50 years, but you have to ask them, how many times have you been married?
Yeah, true. But
I'm with you, David.
His wife was actually the 8th-time Canadian women's chess champion, believe it or not.
When we met,
she's famous.
Beat me 10-0 or 9-1, and I had to work very hard for a few years to reach her level. Because I was scared that she will divorce me because it's not interesting to get married to a fool who doesn't know really how to play chess. That's how I learned it the hard way.
Okay, now that we had our social thing, America in 2020 still a superpower. David, here's the question that we had for our panel earlier today, Afghanistan. We just spent $1 trillion, which you and I know we don't have. We had to borrow it. Almost $1 trillion in Afghanistan. And for that, we're just leaving. If America was really a superpower, would they just spend $1 trillion and just pull out of Afghanistan? It doesn't seem to make any sense to me. We just conquered the country. We're there. We've stabilized it, and all of a sudden we're leaving. What gives here after $1 trillion down the tubes? No reparations.
First, just to set the record straight, it's America in 2040 rather than 2020. Because the answer is yes in 2020, but may or may not be.
Oh, yes. Sorry, America 2040.
That's okay. But let's get to Afghanistan. We had a reason to go to Afghanistan after 9/11. It had to do with Al-Qaeda, and it had to do with the fact that the Taliban, who then was the government of Afghanistan, was harboring Al-Qaeda in the mountains. And therefore, we wanted to deal with Al-Qaeda. So to deal with Al-Qaeda, you also had to deal with the Taliban. I might note we did not declare war because, which is another problem. We haven't declared war since the end of World War II, although we've had a number of conflicts that we've called wars, which technically weren't. My view is we should have been out of Afghanistan 10 to 15 years ago. And the other thing is just another example of how the United States and many other countries don't learn from history. Afghanistan is, not cohesive. It hasn't ever been cohesive. You've got a bunch of warlords that basically rule the country. The central government is extremely weak. The British tried to rule Afghanistan and failed. The Russians tried to rule Afghanistan and failed. The United States, tried to, change things in Afghanistan, it has not succeeded. I mean, even Genghis Khan had a problem in Afghanistan, so I mean.
And Alexander Makedonsky.
Yeah, but.
Alexander the Great.
Right. And now we see, and so, look, I mean, why are we going to be any different? I mean, you're not going to change that country to be in your own image. And now the interesting thing is I heard that China is thinking about taking over our major air base there. That would be the ultimate irony.
Yeah, and
I would call that the ultimate like humiliation.
Yeah, well,
wouldn't
we paid for it. We paid for it.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we just maintain our air base there? I mean,
the Americans have gone in. The Americans have gone in, not the Allies. The Americans have gone in and spent $22 billion, which is nothing in the scale of things these days, but still, $22 billion of taxpayers' money on building a local television network in Afghanistan, despite the fact that less than 10% of people in the country actually have a TV.
Oh, then that's the reason our viewership's down on Afghanistan television.
We're not getting a big Afghani viewership on this show.
But actually we do. We're actually rebroadcast on that national television. I don't know if you know that. So we're seen, but we're not seen by that many people in Afghanistan. So our network
they don't speak English there either. So is there like a translator translating our show live for them, or?
Well, the thing is, no. I think it just goes out in English. And Dr. Boris Abbey, who's been on our show before, was the guy. He was actually in Afghanistan, who actually got us onto Afghanistan television. So if you were actually over in Afghanistan and you want to watch the IBM TV network, we broadcast there on their major national network. But now you told me why we don't get a lot of viewers is because they don't have television sets over there.
And
we get whatever they see. And
I was still trying to get over the fact that I'm on TV in Afghanistan.
Yeah, you are. Okay, well, that's the reason we're discussing Afghanistan, because we got a lot of Afghan viewers. And we're not just streaming, we're actually on their airwaves as well in Afghanistan. But see, that may all be over with since they're pulling out.
You'll have the China BM TV.
Well, the thing is, we don't have much. We're blocked in China. We have yet to get into China.
No, the Chinese version of IBM TV.
They probably. See that will happen is China will get it in there, and China will be broadcasting into Afghanistan, and we're going to be out.
But they're going to have the same problem. There's not very many Afghanis that speak Chinese, so Mandarin, Cantonese.
Well, the thing is, actually, when this gets rebroadcast, Shaquille, you'll notice there's English subtitles that go underneath. You can actually read.
You can't speak English, then you can't read English either.
I know that. Well, what we have to do is switch it over so it translates in Afghanistan. Our translator program isn't that sophisticated, so it just does English and doesn't translate into Afghani. So we'll have to work on that. But anyway, that's our story with Afghanistan. Is that yes, we're in there. Yes, we're on their major media channels. Yes, we're also on streaming. But apparently the thing is they have some issues over there. And ultimately, I guess they're going to be watching Chinese programming and not watching IBM TV because they can't, because we're going to be out of there. Okay, which leads us to another place that we're in, Haiti. David Walker, what are your thoughts about the assassination of the Haitian president? That happened right in our backyard in Haiti. How's that going to affect the United States to have a world leader basically assassinated in his backyard?
Well, Haiti's been a mess for a long time. And there's been tremendous instability, tremendous poverty, tremendous corruption in Haiti for a long time. I think we'll have to see what ends up happening. There's a cooperative effort going on to try to investigate what happened. And, news is coming out that Colombians were involved, and maybe even some people, some expatriates of Haiti who were in the United States. I just don't know. And so we'll have to wait and see, what the investigation uncovers. But that country has been extremely unstable for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now let's get to the United States economy, the way we're looking at it on Economics Monday. Our stock market is an all-time high. Real estate is, at least in my city in North Carolina, almost impossible to buy. In other words, you can't even buy a house. In my neighborhood, we have 450 homes. None of them are for sale. Okay. We have the U.S. government debt at an all-time high. The question I have, David, is when does the economy collapse? In other words, the stock market starts rolling backwards. The real estate, just like what happened in 2008. When is this show going to end? When does the circus leave the town? Because I need to know that, because I need to know when I need to pull my money out of the market. So what are they saying in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I'm not a registered investment advisor, and only God knows the answer to that question, and God has not communicated that to my knowledge. So, look, we're getting additional economic growth now because of the rebound from the tremendous contraction that occurred because of COVID-19. At the same point in time, we're starting to also get a resurgence of inflation. We still have a very high number of unemployed in the United States. There's a number of reasons for that. One of which is that the federal government is paying people extra money through the end of September in unemployment benefits. And so for certain segments of the population, it doesn't make economic sense to go back to work because you can make more money by staying on unemployment. I'll mention something that I think that I'm going to write an op-ed on here within the next few days, and that is, it's not just that fiscal policy is unsustainable, which is tax and spending and rising debt to GDP levels. It's monetary policy is unsustainable. And I think one of the things that has to happen is that we need to eliminate the third mandate for the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve used to just have two mandates: promote long-term economic growth and to promote stable prices over time. Those are very appropriate mandates for the Federal Reserve. Notice I said over time, okay, and long term. But years ago, a new mandate was added. It was called to fight unemployment. I don't think that's appropriate for the Federal Reserve because I think the unemployment challenge is a combination of several things that they have nothing to do with. Number one, our education system, which is not top 25 in the world. Number two, our immigration policy, which is not focused on skills and knowledge as it should be. And number three, our unemployment system, where we actually are paying people more by not working than if they were working on an after-tax basis. So I think it's not appropriate for the Federal Reserve to be focused on that. That has caused them to be able to do some things in the short term that has enabled Congress to be even more fiscally irresponsible. And frankly, I think it's caused them to become part of the problem rather than part of the solution. Paul Volcker was a friend of mine. I'm about done. Paul Volcker was a friend of mine. He was proactive. He made tough choices. The Federal Reserve is now exactly the opposite. They're reactive and they're not making tough choices.
Can I just say I agree with what you said there. I mean, the Fed shouldn't be involved in anything, employment or any of those other issues. They should be involved in monetary policy and monetary control. But I do have to say, Milton Friedman was right, even by Ben Bernanke's own admission. Milton Friedman was right. The Fed was responsible for making the Great Depression the Great Depression instead of just a garden variety recession. This last time around, something real weird has happened. We've had a calamitous event affect the world. It's the black swan of all black swans. And the market has gone flying up. The real estate prices are up. Everything is up as a result of the Fed. So before they didn't do enough. Now they've done way too much. And there's going to be consequences. And the next big disaster is going to be way worse, in my opinion, than what we saw in the Great Depression. I think it's inevitable because they've run out of options. There's nothing left in their bag to do anything now. Interest rates are at nothing. So they've just backed themselves in a corner. And look, whilst I'm a fan of Milton Friedman, I don't agree with everything that he ever said. But I think that he said a pretty good comment in one of his, I think it was to a Senate inquiry here, where he said, the Fed didn't listen to me. They made all these terrible mistakes in the past. They're going to do things differently now. So they're going to make new, different mistakes in the future. And I think that he's going to be proven correct.
Mm-hmm. Too much real quickly. Let me piggyback real quickly. Low interest rates, they're artificially low right now. Secondly, loose money. The money supply has expanded 30% plus in the last year. Okay. Those two policies are just unsustainable. And, and I'm interested to see what Jerome Powell has to say this week. He's doing his semi-annual testimony. I'm sure he's going to get a lot of questions about inflation. But I think, one of the problems is they're being asked to do something that they shouldn't do. And
but even under Alan Greenspan, I mean, that's the whole thing. When we rely on the Fed to do things which is outside the original purview, this is what you get. There's always a payday in the end. Eventually, you have to pay for it. Alan Greenspan tried to loosen up monetary supply in order to encourage home ownership. And what happened? You had this huge event in 2008 with the credit crisis. So, any time that there's over intervention into the market, there is a consequence. And, that's my great fear. And it's, again, not just for America, because we have interconnected economies now. It's going to affect the whole world. The whole of the Western civilization, all Western countries are going to be affected by these sorts of policies.
Yeah,
and the ECB has expanded its money supply dramatically. The Bank of England has done the same thing. We've seen this all over the Western world. It does not sit well, and I think some tough choices are going to have to be made if there's a political wherewithal to make them.
Yeah. Well, since you're soon to become a retired multi-billion-dollar hedge fund manager, Shaquille, they'll give you something to worry about while you're sitting on the golf course. But Dan Worthington, you sit on the board at South Dakota Trust Company. Don't people discuss that? It's $100 billion trust company. Doesn't it come up every week? When is the economy going to basically collapse with the Fed having no real room to intervene? And you got to take your mic off. You're on mute, Dan. Dr. Dan Worthington. You're on mute, so you got to unmute yourself. I want to hear what the South Dakota Trust Company has to say. Okay.
Okay. I think the concern is very broad that the metrics in our economy are of great concern. So I think that's it's creating it has the potential to create great instability, and ultimately will cause the economy to crash, like Shaquille said. And then all Americans will be paying the price for the bad monetary policy that's been pursued in the name of political expediency.
Yeah, and of course now the only question is, when is that going to take place? When is the next collapse going to take place? With that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. And Guidry goes, let's go look at something that took place 40 years ago. Who cares? Okay, that's political. Okay, we're back now, and by the way, Lawyer's Den is going into its third season and maybe being moved to ABC Network. So this may be our last year with the Lawyer's Den as it's going off to Never Never Land. Dave Walker, when do you think this collapse, or is the collapse going to take place? Because it looks like Biden is trying to pump another 1.2 trillion into the economy. When or is there any crystal ball? We asked you that before, but is there any rumblings about this in Washington D.C.? What they would do if there's a collapse? Any contingency plan? Or is there no plans at all in Washington, D.C.? How do they plan the economy up there?
The United States has been a country since 1789, and it's never had a strategic plan.
There is no plan in Washington, D.C. Never has been, never will be.
There is no plan, is the answer.
Okay, wait. When you were the Comptroller General of the United States, didn't they have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 15 and a 20-year plan?
Yeah. The Government Accountability Office did. The U.S. government did not. Individual departments and agencies had plans, but there was no consolidated, forward-looking, threat, risk, opportunity-based, resource-constrained, outcome-oriented plan. None, and there still isn't.
Okay, that's not really
Can I say
Yeah, go on.
This is why, for our audience, this is why I am so vehemently not a partisan. Because when you're a partisan, you have to take a side. Okay, I've got it pretty easy. All government sucks. It doesn't matter if they're Democrats, Republicans. Sometimes Democrats suck more than Republicans. Sometimes Republicans suck more than Democrats. They all suck. And so all you have to do is just go around and not like them, and you'll be as happy as I am.
Okay. Wait, David. What you're telling me is there's no strategic plan of like your book. The reason I like this, it's futuristic. America in 2040 is still a superpower, and you're looking into the future, where you are, what you can do, because looking into the future, it's much better than studying history of the past. You can actually do something with that. But you're telling me the United States government has no plan or vision what America is going to look like in 2040, what our rail system's going to be like, what our infrastructure going to be like, what our budgets are going to be like. You're telling me that the United States government, the world's largest economy, has no plan. Is that what you're saying?
It does not have a future focused, threat, risk, opportunity oriented, resource constrained plan for the future. No, it does not.
Okay.
Dave, and I give you advance permission to plead the fifth. I'm reading your bio here. As the immediate former Comptroller General of the United States, the CEO of the Government Accountability Office, the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, too many things here for me to actually list. There's a whole page of the things that you've done and represented. I know that you served under 3 different presidents. Was there any government administration that you thought didn't suck?
Well, it depends on what the issue is. Okay, I mean, I will say that I think the most. Let's talk about fiscal policy, which is tax and spending and sustainability. Okay, I think the best president that we've had for that in recent decades is Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, I think, was the most fiscally responsible president. He worked with Newt Gingrich, and they made some tough choices. We actually had 4 years of surpluses. We paid down the debt for 2 years. In 2000, we were projected to have surpluses as far as the eye could see. I think, we all know what happened on September 11th, 2001. Certain things resulted from that. But in 2003, when we had a second round of debt finance tax cuts, when we invaded a sovereign nation without declaring war, Iraq, it was supposed to pay for itself, cost trillions of dollars, thousands of lives. When we expanded Medicare to add $8 trillion in new unfunded obligations when it was already underfunded $19 trillion, that told me people had totally lost touch with reality. And unfortunately, it's got worse since then. It's gotten worse.
I think
it works. Now they're trying to make it work.
I think that Bill Clinton was a great president. I think he did a great job economically, but there were some flaws in how he operated, and one of them was his centralization of command over the military back to Washington instead of being left for the generals. He demoralized the Navy. He demoralized the military actions that were fighting in Iraq. He let Saddam Hussein break international agreements with no consequence. I mean, you got Navy aircraft flying over Iraq, being shot at by these idiots with weapons that the US gave them. And Saddam Hussein, by declassified documents, Saddam Hussein is sitting there laughing about this. And this came at an enormous cost. So we can look back at any president, I think, and say, there were flaws. But I don't think that when it comes to overall policy and overall direction, that very much is done by any politician on any side, even my favorite, Ronald Reagan, right? It's certainly in my lifetime, my favorite's Ronald Reagan. Even he left a lot to be desired. And it's very rare that you see Congress in general, or the executive branch in general, operating in a way that, in my opinion, is in line with what the everyday American person wants. And I think the only branch of government that does is probably the Supreme Court.
David, China actually has a plan.
I know.
Strategic plan well into the future. So my next question is, why is it the United States, this is like one of the most important things they'll ever do, is to have a strategic plan into the year 2040. Why is it that we, the world's largest economy, have no plan? Why can't we have a plan for 2040?
Well, in part because we have 3 maladies: myopia or nearsightedness, tunnel vision. We don't look at things comprehensively in interconnected fashion. It's one issue at a time without understanding the interdependency, the interconnectivity, the ripple effect. And thirdly, self-interest. Most of the people who are running our country are either politicians and therefore run for office every 2 years or every 6 years, and their number one concern is getting reelected. Most of the people who are in the executive branch are in their job 2 or 3 years. They want to make a difference in that 2 or 3 years. They're focused more on policy issues rather than longer term, management sustainability issues. So there are lots of reasons for it, and many of those are talked about in the book. But what's more important, it's not just talking about the problem; it's sensible solutions to try to create a better future.
Right. And the thing is, with that, we're going to leave that as we're going to go on to our next show. For those people who haven't read this book, read it. America in 2040, Still a Superpower, with the Honorable David M. Walker. And it's about time somebody looks into the future rather than looking at the history of the past. I'd like to thank everybody, especially the Honorable David Walker, for being on our show, Economics Monday, and we'll see you back next time.
Thanks, everybody.
On Economics
Take care.
Monday. Take care. Bye.